Welcome to Hidden Millions. In the following sentences, use your imagination and persistence to discover if any of these ideas can plant the seed for new fortunes in your name. Within a desert city lit by neon skylines, luxury hotels wrestle with the flood of influencers crowding their once private rooftop bars. Wealthy guests who come for calm views of the skyline find themselves sharing spaces with flashing cameras and loud music. The promise of exclusivity erodes under the weight of mass appeal. In a jewelry market with glass floors and velvet curtains, collectors voice frustration at authentication processes that drag for weeks. Rare stones lose their allure when bureaucracy dulls the transaction. The glitter of diamonds is dimmed by the inefficiency of verifying what wealth alone should instantly secure. At a luxury spot overlooking a tropical lagoon, patrons face the paradox of premium treatments rushed by overbooked schedules. Guests expecting tranquility instead count the minutes as therapists move quickly to meet quotas. The sanctuary of wellness collapses when time is treated like a commodity. In a private golf course carved into rolling green hills, members are frustrated by outdated booking systems that fail to guarantee their tee times. Status loses meaning when waiting lists stretch endlessly. What should be a seamless sport of prestige becomes an administrative struggle that diminishes the aura of belonging. At an exclusive boarding school surrounded by forests and lakes, parents complain of limited communication channels with their children. Despite paying astronomical fees, updates are sparse, schedules unclear, and the sense of control fades. The promise of elite education feels fractured by gaps in visibility. Inside a rooftop penthouse with panoramic views of the skyline, residents suffer when smart home systems fail to integrate properly. Lights flicker inconsistently, climate systems misbehave, and devices clash rather than cooperate. The elegance of technology turns into a cacophony of disjointed signals. It's a championship horse racing arena filled with luxury boxes. High net worth spectators complain about poor visibility and outdated betting systems. The glamour of the track is undermined by delays, errors, and infrastructure that does not match the scale of their investments. Prestige turns hollow when the experience feels dated. In a tech hub where co-working spaces market themselves as elite, founders find themselves competing for meeting rooms that lack the sophistication to impress investors. The chaos of scheduling strips away the aura of professionalism. Instead of projecting innovation, the environment betrays the reality of cramped inefficiency. At a vineyard estate where rolling hills stretch endlessly, connoisseurs express dismay at limited access to ultra-rare vintages. Despite their wealth, availability depends on outdated distribution chains. The culture of refinement falters when exclusivity cannot keep up with demand. In luxury safari lodges where glass walls blur the line between wilderness and comfort, guests feel disconnected when Wi-Fi signals vanish for hours. The illusion of balance between nature and modern living crumbles when urgent communications are impossible. What should be immersion feels instead like restriction. Inside a members-only private jet terminal, travelers grow restless with the slowness of customs clearances. The architecture may shine with marble and glass, but the bottleneck of paperwork undermines the illusion of seamless mobility. What is sold as freedom feels chained to bureaucracy. At a futuristic fashion district where boutiques line up like galleries, clients are exhausted by the sameness of luxury offerings. Collections blur into repetition, failing to match the hunger for originality. The aspirational dream of standing apart collapses when exclusivity feels mass-produced. In a floating city built on lagoons, residents endure frequent power fluctuations that disrupt the modern luxuries promised by the developers. Expensive homes lose their allure when lights flicker and cooling systems fail under strain. Paradise becomes fragile when infrastructure cannot keep pace with ambition. Inside a racing club filled with collectors of supercars, members lament the absence of secure high-speed tracks that allow them to unleash the full potential of their machines. Wealth buys horsepower, but urban roads impose restrictions. The thrill of driving remains muted by environments that cannot match the vehicles. At a desert resort where mirrored architecture blends with dunes, wealthy travelers complain that booking systems collapse during high season. Despite astronomical fees, availability is uncertain and planning becomes chaotic. The promise of smooth indulgence erodes under technological fragility. In a health clinic designed like a palace with marble halls, patients with unlimited means still endure delays in accessing cutting-edge procedures. Time, the most precious commodity, is squandered in waiting rooms disguised as lounges. Wealth is unable to buy certainty in healthcare delivery. It's a luxury watchmaking hidden in a mountain village. Collectors lament the years-long waiting lists for bespoke pieces. The art of craftsmanship becomes entangled with inefficiency, eroding the pleasure of anticipation. Exclusivity turns sour when it feels indistinguishable from denial. Within a futuristic city where vertical farms stretch toward the clouds, elite residents complain about shortages of premium organic produce. Despite technological promises, the most desirable crops are rationed or overpriced. The dream of sustainable abundance feels hollow when scarcity intrudes. In a high-rise filled with glass elevators, executives grow impatient with outdated security checks that add friction to their daily commutes. Wealth secures penthouses and offices but fails to protect their time. Prestige towers turn into cages when freedom of movement is compromised. At an elite art fair where canvases are guarded by velvet ropes, buyers find that logistics for transporting masterpieces remain archaic and risky. Fragile investments are subject to clumsy handling and endless insurance paperwork. Beauty and wealth become hostages to outdated systems. In a smart resort built along coral reefs, guests paying for seclusion are disturbed by overcrowding from day visitors who disrupt the peace. The exclusivity of paradise weakens under the pressure of mass excess. Luxury dissolves when borders between privilege and commonality blur. Within a tech incubator housed in a glass dome, founders grumble about the lack of privacy in shared spaces. Sensitive conversations about billion-dollar deals are overheard through thin partitions. Innovation withers when secrecy cannot be preserved. In a floating restaurant shaped like a lotus, diners are frustrated by inconsistent supply of rare ingredients that are key to the menu SLO. The theatre of fine dining falters when signature dishes cannot be delivered consistently. Guests leave with memories of absence rather than indulgence. At a coastal property lined with private beaches, residents face the reality of rising tides that erode their investments. The dream of permanence is interrupted by forces that infrastructure has failed to master. The illusion of stability collapses when nature reclaims luxury. In a design outlet village adorned with glass sculptures, wealthy shoppers are exasperated by long waits for personal stylists. Despite the setting, the scarcity of attention devalues the experience. Prestige loses its flavor when service becomes indistinguishable from mass retail. Inside a tech-driven luxury cinema with reclining pods, patrons lament the poor curation of exclusive screenings. Technology dazzles, but the lack of refined content selection cheapens the concept. Opulence becomes hollow when vision fails to match execution. At a mountain spa retreat where waterfalls flow through stone corridors, visitors complain that wellness programs are too generic despite promises of personalization. Guests who seek unique journeys feel betrayed by the repetition of recycled treatments. What should be transcendence feels manufactured. Within a capitalist financial hub, entrepreneurs paying premium rents face internet outages that paralyze billion-dollar negotiations. Skyscrapers lose their aura when their digital veins falter. Prestige is meaningless when basic infrastructure cannot sustain ambition. At a luxury cruise where decks glimmer under chandeliers, passengers grumble about unpredictable itineraries caused by port congestion. The romance of exploration weakens when uncertainty overshadows control. Wealth secures cabins, but not the assurance of flawless travel. In a countryside chatter surrounded by vineyards, guests complain about poor digital connectivity that isolates them from modern life. Rustic charm turns into frustration when urgent communications collapse. Heritage becomes a prison without access to the present. Inside a megacity stadium hosting exclusive sports tournaments, VIP ticket holders are frustrated by chaotic access points that force them to queue with regular crowds. The hierarchy of privilege disintegrates when boundaries blur. Wealth does not buy separation when systems fail. At a luxury furniture gallery where every piece is crafted as art, clients endure endless delays in deliveries caused by fragile global logistics. Homes remain incomplete while statements of wealth gather dust in warehouses. The power of design is diluted by absence. In a tropical island resort with villas perched over turquoise waters, guests voice frustration over inconsistent service quality between staff shifts. What is marketed as seamless indulgence feels fragmented. The fantasy of paradise unravels when service becomes unpredictable. Inside a diamond exchange with marble floors and iron gates, traders whisper about inefficiencies that cause billion-dollar deals to stall for days. Glittering stones sit idle while paperwork drags on. The brilliance of wealth is dulled by archaic systems. At an automotive design studio surrounded by glass walls, clients seeking bespoke supercars endure timelines that stretch into years. The excitement of creation fades as delays overshadow innovation. Luxury becomes hostage to the very exclusivity it promises. Within a coastal smart city, residents complain of transportation systems that fail during peak hours despite futuristic branding. The vision of seamless mobility falters when traffic paralyzes even the elite lanes. Progress feels fragile when promises are broken daily. In a private island compound guarded by high walls, owners still face the irritation of supply shortages for premium products. Despite isolation designed to symbolize control, dependence on fragile logistics exposes vulnerability. Wealth cannot mask the cracks in provision. At a luxury aquarium built inside a skyscraper, visitors paying for VIP access are frustrated by overcrowding that makes the experience feel ordinary. What should be odd turns into impatience. Prestige loses its luster when mass access disrupts rarity. Inside a desert racetrack lined with golden lights, supercar owners are dismayed by safety protocols that slow down their ability to drive freely. Wealth buys velocity, but bureaucracy imposes brakes. The thrill of performance collapses under enforced caution. At a hilltop monastery converted into a wellness retreat, wealthy seekers of silence complain of noise pollution from surrounding developments. The fantasy of serenity clashes with the encroachment of urban sprawl. Spiritual luxury becomes an illusion when peace is impossible to purchase. In a gleaming district filled with mirrored skyscrapers, executives step into chauffeured cars only to lose hours trapped in endless gridlock. The glow of neon advertisements and luxury boutiques contrast sharply with the frustration of city style, knowing that time lost on the road is money and influence slipping through their fingers. On exclusive islands where waterfront mansions line private marinas, residents find themselves disconnected by outdated digital infrastructure. Ultra-wealthy homeowners must tolerate lagging connections and unstable systems in properties worth tens of millions, an indignity that undermines the prestige of living in supposed paradise. Inside pristine hospitals with polished marble lobbies and scented air, patients in tailored suits wait endlessly for specialists whose schedules are overloaded. The promise of cutting-edge medicine is eroded by bottlenecks that leave even the elite waiting like ordinary people, frustrated by inefficiencies money should already have solved. In private air terminals where jets stand ready, travelers accustomed to control face disruptions caused by inconsistent maintenance and delayed clearances. The aura of freedom and independence fades quickly, where every departure still hinges on outdated systems that make flying feel uncertain and unreliable. At luxury ski resorts nestled beneath glassy peaks, affluent visitors encounter crowded lifts and poorly managed slope access. Their dream of untouched powder and exclusivity turns into a scene of queues, noise, and interruptions that clash with the serenity they expect at such elevated prices. In art districts where galleries boast million-dollar installations, wealthy collectors complain of opaque pricing and exclusive circles that operate like hidden clubs. The lack of transparency leaves even the most sophisticated buyers feeling excluded from opportunities they believe should be theirs by merit of wealth. On the rooftops of high-rise penthouses where infinity pools shimmer above the skyline, maintenance crews struggle with outdated filtration systems. Owners who demand pristine water and seamless views are left facing chemical imbalances, cloudy surfaces, and unexpected closures that chip away at their perfect lifestyle. In high-tech boardrooms with panoramic views of financial centers, CEOs discover that their confidential strategy meetings are still vulnerable to leaks. The inadequacy of digital security leaves them uneasy, knowing that influence and billions could be lost due to vulnerabilities that should not exist at such a level. At desert resorts where camels, helicopters, and private safaris blend with opulence, guests complain of extreme discomfort caused by climate mismanagement. Rooms fail to stay cool, outdoor experiences become unbearable, and luxury quickly feels like punishment under a sun that wealth alone cannot tame. Within exclusive vineyards where bottles sell for thousands, climate unpredictability has begun to disrupt production schedules and alter the taste of prized vintages. Collectors and luxury restaurants face shortages that not only disappoint clients but threaten the very status of wine as a symbol of refined permanence. In cutting-edge Kaoking towers marketed as havens for the entrepreneurial elite, founders pay exorbitant rents but contend with constant noise and shallow networking opportunities. What is sold as a hub of innovation often feels like a crowded cafe disguised in polished marble, diminishing the prestige of building empires there. At sprawling equestrian estates where thoroughbreds gallop across manicured fields, wealthy owners struggle with outdated monitoring systems that fail to ensure animal health. Vet calls become reactive rather than proactive, leaving prized horses vulnerable to preventable conditions that jeopardize both status and investment. In coastal luxury villas built on stilts above turquoise waters, residents confront creeping erosion that threatens their investments. The turquoise horizon loses its serenity when shifting sands and rising tides eat away at foundations, transforming idyllic retreats into fragile properties balanced on uncertainty. At exclusive golf resorts surrounded by rolling hills, elite players complain that outdated course management leaves greens overplayed and scenery diminished. The experience of precision and control that comes with golf is undermined by uneven upkeep, turning prestigious tournaments into events of frustration rather than mastery. In luxury watch boutiques glowing with spotlighted glass cases, clients demand limited editions only to discover counterfeits infiltrating private markets. The aura of timeless craftsmanship feels endangered, leaving serious collectors uneasy about investing in what should be the safest expression of permanence and status. In riverfront developments boasting glass towers and floating docks, residents pay astronomical sums yet still contend with flooding that ruins accessibility. What was sold as the future of urban living reveals a fragility that clashes with the promise of permanence and untouchable security. On sprawling private ranches where exclusivity is measured in acres, wealthy landowners struggle with outdated irrigation that undermines both landscape and prestige. The dream of lush, evergreen fields is interrupted by dry patches and visible decline, reminding them that luxury becomes hollow when nature refuses to cooperate. In the silent cabins of private trains redesigned for the elite, travelers discover disruptions caused by outdated scheduling and underdeveloped infrastructure. Instead of gliding seamlessly across the landscape, journeys are interrupted by stops, delays, and coordination failures that strip away the magic of exclusivity. At luxury wellness retreats designed to detoxify the body and soul, wealthy clients face chaos caused by overcrowding and superficial treatments. What should feel like a sanctuary for balance instead feels transactional, leaving participants questioning why serenity is harder to find the more one pays for it. Within ultra-modern residential towers where sky gardens decorate every 10th floor, residents find elevators frequently malfunctioning under heavy use. Even the most glamorous design becomes hollow when basic functionality like vertical transport fails, turning luxury towers into gilded cages. In the bustling hearts of financial capitals, luxury car owners spend fortunes on vehicles that remain trapped in underground garages due to lack of space. Their status symbols are reduced to static displays, unable to fulfill their intended purpose of prestige on the streets. At exclusive culinary festivals where Michelin chefs gather, wealthy attendees encounter logistical failures, long waits, chaotic seating, and disappointing access to star personalities. The promise of rare encounters with culinary genius collapses into frustration as wealth alone cannot buy meaningful proximity. On private mountain lodges designed as ultimate retreats, guest styles struggle with connectivity failures that disrupt their remote lifestyles. Even in the most secluded places, the inability to synchronize business, entertainment, and personal needs creates an unsettling sense of incompleteness. In exclusive medical spas where treatments cost more than luxury cars, clients endure waiting times and poorly calibrated therapies that result in uneven results. The contradiction of paying for perfection and receiving mediocrity fuels dissatisfaction and amplifies mistrust in the industry. Within boutique marinas lined with gleaming yachts, owners complain of insufficient space, outdated facilities, and disorganized docking systems. The lack of order turns what should be a seamless luxury into chaos, diminishing the very pride of owning such extraordinary vessels. In luxury fashion districts where glass storefronts display pieces worth entire salaries, shoppers face unpredictable stock shortages. The experience of exclusivity is disrupted when items vanish before high-net-worth clients can access them, leaving wealth powerless against artificial scarcity. At remote safari lodges promising untouched wilderness, guests pay astronomical sums yet encounter poorly managed logistics. Long travel delays, uncomfortable transitions, and poorly curated experiences transform the majesty of nature into a sequence of avoidable frustrations. In elite racing clubs, where supercars line private tracks, wealthy drivers must tolerate outdated timing systems and overcrowded events. Precision and exclusivity are diluted when the multi-million-dollar machines cannot perform under flawless conditions. At glittering casinos where fortunes move across velvet tables, high rollers often complain of outdated systems that fail to provide discretion. Winning or losing millions becomes shadowed by the discomfort of being watched, recorded, and disrupted in moments that should feel entirely private. In alpine towns dotted with chalets worth more than skyscrapers, residents complain of outdated emergency systems incapable of handling avalanches or harsh storms. Wealth buys views but not reassurance, leaving those at the top uneasy about their vulnerability to nature. At futuristic space observatories marketed to billionaires, guests find themselves disappointed by limited access to telescopes and poorly managed viewing schedules. The majesty of the cosmos is diminished when exclusivity feels mass-produced. In luxury retirement communities surrounded by golf courses and private clubs, residents complain of lifeless activities and outdated facilities. Despite paying premium fees, they experience monotony, proving that aging with wealth can still feel like a diminished version of life. At glitzy film festivals attended by the wealthy, chaos erupts as VIP passes are oversold and access to premieres becomes limited. Instead of enjoying seamless exclusivity, guests find themselves battling for privileges that money was supposed to guarantee. Within beachfront skyscrapers where penthouses overlook endless seas, storm surges disrupt underground parking and destabilize foundations. The very promise of untouchable luxury is shaken each time nature proves stronger than steel and glass. In exclusive tech summits where billionaires gather, attendees discover that presentations are plagued by technical glitches and uninspired coordination. What should be the pinnacle of innovation feels like a poorly organized classroom, undercutting the prestige of attendance. At luxury fragrance outlets where scents are blended by hand, wealthy clients wait months for delayed delivery of bespoke perfumes. The exclusivity of rarity quickly transforms into irritation when personal branding is stalled by inefficiency. In elite photography expeditions to polar landscapes, affluent travelers discover overcrowded itineraries and poorly managed equipment. The promise of capturing once-in-a-lifetime shots becomes diluted when exclusivity feels like group tourism with a higher price tag. Within lavish concert halls designed for the wealthy, patrons complain of outdated acoustics and underwhelming seating arrangements. Paying a fortune for tickets does not prevent echoes, muffled sound, or obstructive views, leaving disappointment where rush should dominate. At luxury automotive clubs promising exclusivity, members find themselves waiting weeks for vehicle servicing despite paying staggering fees. The allure of owning supercars is tainted when maintenance experiences feel no different from mass-market services. In premium shopping districts illuminated by crystal chandeliers, wealthy buyers complain that even tailored services feel rushed and impersonal. Spending extravagantly does not guarantee intimacy or respect, leaving transactions feeling sterile and transactional. On private islands where everything is imported, wealthy residents face shortages when storms disrupt supply chains. The fragility of luxury becomes clear when millionaires must compromise on basics like fresh produce, undermining the aura of abundance. Elite mountaineering expeditions marketed as exclusive conquests, climbers face poorly coordinated logistics and inadequate safety measures. Instead of transcendent experiences, they endure frustrations that reveal wealth cannot yet buy certainty at extreme altitudes. At luxury stadium boxes overlooking major sporting events, VIP clients complain of chaotic catering and overcrowded lounges. Paying astronomical sums for exclusivity still results in experiences that lack polish and diminish the sense of privilege. Within opulent private schools decorated like palaces, parents discover rigid systems that fail to nurture creativity. Despite staggering tuition fees, children are trapped in outdated models that feel indistinguishable from traditional institutions. On glamorous cruise ships marketed as floating palaces, wealthy travelers face outdated ventilation systems and hygiene lapses. The image of seamless comfort is quickly broken when luxury feels fragile against basic discomforts. In dazzling coastal clubs where members sip champagne under designer cabanas service glasses during peak hours. Waiting half an hour for attention underlines how even wealth cannot fix inefficiency when operations lack vision. At private film screenings for the ultra-wealthy, technical malfunctions and poor scheduling undermine exclusivity. Watching rare cinema becomes less about privilege and more about tolerating avoidable disruptions that erode the atmosphere. In the penthouses overlooking a glittering skyline, wealthy residents find themselves trapped in a cycle of endless waiting as elevators fail to keep up with peak hour demand. The silence of exclusive hallways is often broken by frustrated sighs, where opulence is overshadowed by delays that reduce luxury living to the inconveniences of an ordinary building. Along private marinas filled with sleek yachts, affluent travelers complain about the lack of real-time digital services that allow seamless coordination of crews, catering, and entertainment. The wealth tied up in these vessels contrasts with the outdated logistics that force owners to manually chase after staff, disrupting the effortless lifestyle the harbour promises. Inside medical spas adorned with crystal chandeliers and minimalist aesthetics, elite clients wait far too long for appointments that claim to be personalized but feel standardized. Behind the fodder of innovation, treatments lack the tailored depth that matches the price tags, creating a silent dissatisfaction that whispers through rooms of supposed tranquility. In luxury retail districts where flagship stores boast futuristic displays, high-net-worth shoppers encounter assistants who still scribble notes on paper to follow up later. For clients accustomed to immediate results and flawless attention, the cracks in service feel amplified, leaving them questioning whether the experience lives up to the prestige of the brand. At business-class lounges in international airports, elite passengers attempt to work between flights but face unreliable internet and lack of private space. Surrounded by abundance in food and champagne, the core need for efficient, high-level productivity remains unmet, turning supposedly premium waiting areas into distractions rather than sanctuaries of efficiency. In ski resorts where chalets rise against white lanterns, wealthy visitors complain about the absence of seamless luxury concierge services to book activities and handle gear. Between layers of snow and exclusivity, inefficiencies in coordination steal precious hours of experience, highlighting a gap between the promise of alpine luxury and its actual delivery. Among vineyard estates with rolling hills and golden sunsets, visitors expecting a tailored experience often receive the same pre-designed tours and tastings. The charm of exclusivity is lost in uniformity, reducing high-paying guests to just another group passing through, rather than offering the intimate narrative they crave with every sip. Inside members-only clubs with velvet armchairs and private bars, patrons whisper about the difficulty of securing truly private rooms for high-level discussions. While the decor screens exclusivity, the infrastructure often fails to keep up with the discretion and customization demanded, leaving powerful conversations exposed to logistical limitations. Within glass towers housing top investment firms, executives battle against outdated data systems that require hours of manual processing before decisions can be made. Despite sitting at the center of global capital, the reliance on clunky platforms undermines the sophistication that these institutions promise their clients and stakeholders. On luxury safaris, where guests ride in leather-seated vehicles, travelers still complain about the unpredictability of wildlife experiences and the absence of immersive, real-time enhancements. Surrounded by wealth and natural beauty, the promise of awe is often reduced to long stretches of waiting, where silence turns into impatience. At exclusive culinary schools designed for affluent hobbyists, students encounter outdated kitchens that clash with their expectations of cutting-edge techniques and tools. The promise of mastering gastronomy feels hollow when high fees buy early tradition, not innovation, leaving enthusiasts searching elsewhere for the mastery they envisioned. Inside luxury hospitals designed to blend healthcare with comfort, patients still confront bureaucratic paperwork that consumes time and diminishes dignity. Private suites and gourmet meals cannot mask the inefficiency of administrative systems that drain energy at moments when attention and speed should be paramount. Along the boulevards of designer fashion districts, high-spending tourists are forced to wait in long lines for limited edition items that should symbolize seamless privilege. The clash between exclusivity and inefficiency leaves patrons frustrated, reducing what should be a moment of triumph into a spectacle of wasted time. At five-star desert resorts where infinity pools reflect the horizon, wealthy travelers often face disjointed services between spa, dining, and entertainment. Despite the breathtaking surroundings, the absence of seamless integration across departments leaves experiences fragmented, diminishing the dream of effortless immersion. Within corporate retreats set in forest sanctuaries, executives complain that team-building activities are repetitive and unimaginative. High fees buy standard packages, while participants crave originality, personalization, and breakthroughs that match the ambition of their companies, but instead receive formulas that anyone could book. In the exclusive neighborhoods filled with modern mansions, residents struggle to coordinate domestic staff across cleaning, gardening, and security. Despite having the resources to afford a flawless lifestyle, inefficiencies in communication create constant small frictions that erode the perception of absolute control and harmony. At private aviation terminals, affluent families arriving for leisure trips often face inconsistent baggage handling and delays in customs clearance. The grandeur of private jets is undercut by weak ground operations, leaving the elite waiting uncomfortably in spaces designed to epitomize efficiency. On luxury cruises equipped with theaters and Michelin-star dining, passengers complain about the monotony of activities that repeat day after day. The spectacle of the sea and the scale of extravagance fall flat when curated programming fails to evolve, leaving guests underwhelmed despite staggering investments in ships. Inside tech campuses where young millionaires work, cafeterias and lounges lack the atmosphere of elevated luxury that matches their aspirations. While paychecks climb, the spaces designed to inspire innovation feel utilitarian and uninspired, leaving a void between wealth and the lifestyle they wish to embody. In desert cities surrounded by futuristic skylines, residents find themselves battling outdated public utilities that cannot keep pace with their consumption. Power fluctuations and water inefficiencies undermine the prestige of living in cutting-edge towers, making basic comfort feel fragile even amidst technological splendor. At luxury wedding venues set in restored castles, couples spending millions are often frustrated by outdated booking systems and uncoordinated staff. Behind the facade of timeless romance, operational chaos seeps in, turning what should be an effortless experience into a logistical struggle no amount of decor can disguise. Within private art collections guarded by biometric vaults, wealthy patrons complain about the lack of immersive digital access to their treasures. Works worth hundreds of millions remain locked away, creating frustration over the inability to enjoy or share them fluidly, despite the immense cost of ownership. On golf resorts carved into dramatic coastlines, elite players face long waits for tee times despite astronomical membership fees. The supposed sanctuary of commerce disrupted by scheduling bottlenecks, leaving a sense of dissatisfaction that luxury landscapes alone cannot resolve. Inside five-star hotels overlooking azure seas, guests frequently complain about generic concierge recommendations that feel copy-pasted. Despite paying for personalized service, their experiences lack the uniqueness expected at the highest level, leaving memories that blur into mediocrity rather than sparkle with exclusivity. In smart cities equipped with digital billboards and autonomous vehicles, affluent residents still struggle with fragmented systems that do not connect seamlessly. Apps crash, services overlap poorly, and data silos persist, breaking the illusion of a futuristic lifestyle and reminding everyone that luxury without coherence feels incomplete. At luxury cinemas offering reclining leather chairs and gourmet snacks, patrons still endure technical glitches and sound inconsistencies that cheapen the experience. The idea of escapism collapses when immersion is broken by inefficiencies that should have no place in a premium environment. On tropical islands with private villas, ultra-rich guests often complain about the lack of medical support that matches the level of luxury offered. A paradise filled with butlers and chefs suddenly feels fragile when health emergencies arise, exposing a glaring gap in preparedness amidst perfection. Within headquarters of global fashion houses, designers struggle against slow supply chains that make rapid luxury launches nearly impossible. Creativity moves fast, but logistics crawl, leaving visions outdated by the time they reach boutiques, and eroding the aura of innovation that defines the industry. At private ski chalets with roaring fireplaces, wealthy families lament the absence of tailored experiences for children that go beyond basic lessons. While adults indulge in gourmet evenings, young ones are left with standard activities, creating a mismatch in how luxury is distributed across generations. In luxury automotive dealerships, high-net-worth buyers face a surprisingly rigid purchasing process with endless paperwork and delayed customizations. The sleek cars on display lose their appeal when the journey of ownership feels like an administrative nightmare rather than the celebration of exclusivity it should be. Inside rooftop bars with panoramic views, affluent guests grow frustrated by the inconsistency of service staff who rotate too frequently to build familiarity. The setting promises permanence and prestige, but the human element falters, leaving loyalty fragile in places designed to inspire repeat devotion. At luxury desert festivals blending art and technology, attendees complain about chaotic logistics for transportation, lodging, and safety. Despite ticket prices soaring, the infrastructure buckles under pressure, leaving elite participants navigating confusion in what should feel like a futuristic utopia. Within Ocean View offices of top consulting firms, partners face the inefficiency of knowledge scattered across silos, with no streamlined access to insights. Hours are wasted searching for data, while clients expect lightning-fast analysis, creating a gap between perception of brilliance and the reality of inefficiency. In ultra-exclusive boarding schools hidden in mountain valleys, parents paying astronomical tuition discover the digital infrastructure lags behind. Students use outdated tools that clash with the promise of a future-ready education, undermining the narrative of progressiveness sold alongside prestige. On luxury desert resorts built around natural springs, visitors complain about disorganized spa appointments and overbooked treatment rooms. The contrast between vast landscapes and cramped schedules highlights how poor operations can shrink even the grandest settings into frustration. Inside towering skyscrapers with glass elevators, office tenants complain about outdated heating and cooling systems that swing from extremes. The symbolism of cutting-edge architecture is undercut by basic discomfort, reducing the allure of prime addresses to the problems of any ordinary building. At luxury retirement communities with sprawling golf courses and wellness centers, residents struggle with disconnected medical and lifestyle services. Their golden years feel fractured rather than seamless, as navigating multiple providers replaces the simplicity and peace they believed they were buying. In exclusive coastal enclaves where homes sell for hundreds of millions, residents find themselves exposed to outdated emergency response systems that cannot match their expectations of safety. The illusion of invulnerability shatters when crises reveal fragility beneath opulence. Within mountain spas surrounded by pine forests, guests complain about identical treatment menus repeated across chains. What was meant to be an escape into uniqueness feels like a repackaged corporate formula, robbing them of the essence of exclusivity.